entertainmentbuddha.com.
Hey there, everyone, welcome back to a fresh episode, a brand new episode. Holy hell, does this show still exist type episode of Thrones Time. It's Matt, it's Nick, it's Keith. We're back, we're live, the mics are hot, and you're probably wondering why. Well, the reason why is because there's been a few things that have popped up in the Game of Thrones verse over the past few months since the last time Nick and I did a Thrones Time, and we just felt like it was a damn good time to talk about them. In fact, today, unbeknownst to us, we were already going to go live, but we got a huge announcement from HBO, so we're actually going to leave with that, my friends. But before we get to that, just wanted to say hello, welcome back to Thrones Times. Good to talk to you guys. Are you excited? I mean, it's almost here now. Like I said, we got this awesome little gift today, so Hershey, why don't you go ahead and kick things off with what did we learn today about HBO's Game of Thrones?
Exciting news indeed. We learned today that Game of Thrones, the final season, the one we've all been waiting for, will return in April of 2019. We don't have a specific day, but we have a month. So we're 5-ish months away from the return of all things Westeros.
You know, now that we have this window, it feels like the time went faster than I thought. I mean, as with anything in life, when you reflect on something, you're like, holy shit, that went a lot quicker than I thought while I was going through it. But I mean, think about it. We're almost, when it comes out in April, we'll almost be 2 years removed since the last time we watched Game of Thrones. And as Nick just said, I mean, 5 months away. We made it. Almost. We made it. I mean, any one of us could disappear tomorrow, but it seems like it's real now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. The thing that makes it funny to me is, you know, being up here in the Northeast, we're starting to get into the cold months. So now this feels like an actual long winter, knowing that I have until April until Game of Thrones. So I got to deal with it getting dark at 4:30 at night. I got to deal with snow that's supposed to come later this week. So it actually starts to feel a little bit like Westeros is now with the White Walkers marching, so to speak.
Yeah, now you say that, they should release it right now. Like right now, because you're right. Life's starting to suck again for all three of us, right? I mean, Keith, you're still up north, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Baltimore.
Okay, so yeah, you're living a hell too in terms of weather. Probably worse than me because you're around water, so.
It's not bad, but winter is most certainly coming.
Yeah, you know, it does make sense. Now you bring it up, Nick, that, I mean, they almost should drop it in the dead cold of winter. I mean, fuck waiting for April, screw spring. Let's keep things dark and depressing for this final run. I mean, I just think it's going to fit with the mantra of the season perfectly.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm calling up HBO
right
after the show.
Call your people.
Got it. I'll get it done. It's on the to-do list. So anyways, guys, were you expecting April? I mean, I know we've heard some windows. People are talking it might be the summer again, but when we think about how Game of Thrones used to be before we got the shortened season in 7, did we get a shortened season in 6 too?
No,
Was that the first
6
season?
was
No.
just 7.
6 was still 10?
Mm-hmm.
But remember when we were doing the 10-episode run seasons, I mean, it would usually start end of March, April-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be done by June. I remember because it'd always be, every time I'd go out to E3, a lot of us that were attending that show covering his media, we'd be talking about like, oh, it's the finale or it's wrapping up, one more to go. And then they switched it to July for season 7, and now we're going back to April. So I guess all things in life are symbiotic. The circle is now complete.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that too when, obviously, you know, we weren't getting it in 2018. So I thought in my mind, I would expect spring of 2019 because I didn't think they would go into the summer for the final season. It just felt
like
to
a
me
full
like they would
2
go.
years.
Yeah. So April, I'm not surprised that that's the date. I want it tomorrow, but I'll take April, I guess.
So let me ask you guys, now that we know it's coming when it's coming, are you still cool with the fact that there's only 6 episodes?
Oh, I have such mixed feelings about it. Because, like, on one hand, only 6 episodes, yes. But they're not going to be 6-hour-long episodes. They're going to be 6 90-minute episodes or whatever nonsense that they're doing. So, like, on the one hand, yeah, we're only getting 6. On the other, are we really only getting 6? I don't know. I feel like I have to reserve judgment until it happens, because in theory, I like the 6 90-minute episodes or whatever, but that has the potential to get like episode bloat, and that worries me a little bit. So and maybe it would be better if it was hour-long episodes just spread across 10 hours. I don't know.
It is weird because, I mean, I'm like both of you guys. I mean, if they said we're rolling out 2-hour episodes of Game of Thrones, I'd be like, all right, I'll schedule that time in my week, probably Sunday night, right when it goes live. But I don't know. I never liked the reduced season in the first place. Even season 7, I didn't like it. And we talked about it when we casted throughout the season. It felt like, and who knows if they were under the gun or whatnot, but didn't it feel like a lot of the moments in season 7 were kind of fast forwarded? We all made fun of Jon Snow's travel ability and shit like that. How it was just like bang, bang, bang. And sometimes they would just juxtapositions and transitions between scenes and continents. It just, I don't know, it started to get muddy. But there are times when I'm even watching hour-long episodes of series of this nature where that hour comes up and I'm going, fuck, it's already over? Like, shit. I'd love to keep going for another 20, 30 minutes. So I think if they are 80 minutes plus, I'll be happy. If they half-ass it and they're like, oh, yeah, well, they're extended, they're 70 minutes, and there's like 1 or 2 90 minutes, I'd be like, nah, fuck that. Yeah. I want all 6 to be minimum 80 minutes. I'm talking like kid movie, B movie length, anywhere between 80 to 90. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An hour, hour 40, something like that, hour 20, hour and a half. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked it up real quick. I believe the longest episode of Game of Thrones was 79 minutes. That was the final episode of season 7. So if we get 6 episodes that are that length, I'm okay. Like I'm okay with the shortened episodes, but equal total runtime, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with it being 6 episodes, but they're putting in obviously they took more time to do everything, because there's going to be a lot more CGI, a lot more battle scenes. So they have to actually obviously spend more time putting that together. Part of the reason, I'm sure, why they extended it to 2019 instead of 2018. But I think personally I'm okay with it. Maybe that'll change as I start watching, when I have to put aside an hour and a half or so each week for it. But I'm so excited for it that I don't really care at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find the time. I'll have a 3-year-old by then, and I'll still figure out a way to cram in an hour and a half of TV on a Sunday night. I don't know. It just, I'm with you guys. It's got to be equal. It can't be the one episode short, one super long, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they all got to be the same length. And like I said, 80-minute min. Come on. Yeah, you got to tell the story. Tell it right. Develop things that need developed. Let's not rush through this. I mean, honestly, what outside of these guys wanting to go start their Star Wars project, what's the fucking rush at this point? The end is here, right? They know it's over. They can be free. They're like Rick Grimes. They can go do more things now. So let's just do it right.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a quote from Liam Cunningham, Sir Davos, right now. And he's saying, when you think about it, up until last season, we'd have 6 months to do 10 episodes. So we're doing way more than that for 6 episodes. So obviously it'll translate into longer episodes. So he's just like, They spent more time. They spent way more time shooting for this, and than they ever did for any season prior. So it by sheer factor of the amount of time that they spent shooting, it's got to be a ton of stuff that we're gonna get.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be, well over 7 hours of total content, maybe pushing 8 hours of total content.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but they I guess at one point in time, the duo, DB and David or whatever the hell their names are, they wanted to end it with 3 2-hour feature films. Like kind of like what AMC is doing with Rick now.
I don't think I would have been mad at that.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Hershey?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if they were going to be like HBO movies. You know how
Yeah.
Netflix makes their own shit, HBO, whatever. But they definitely were at one point committed to the idea of 3 2-hour joints, and here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been interesting to see. I don't know how that, if that would have played as well as what's happened or what's happening. But yeah, I don't know if I could see a full 2 hours. That might be pushing the balance of my commitment there a little bit, but
I'm kind of like you. If this is something they wanted to do, it should have been done from season 1. Just almost tell it like a Lord of the Rings, where it's it'd be more than a trilogy. It'd probably be like 9, 12 movies total.
yeah, I guess I'm wondering if they, obviously when they start this, they don't know that it's going to be the colossal success that it's become. I'm sure maybe if they go back and, if they had, hindsight or whatever, they'd be able to maybe make some changes as to how they did some of it. But yeah,
you gotta think. I consider myself to be pretty in tune with pop culture, especially like sci-fi stuff, fantasy. I had no clue this shit even existed until 2010. Zero.
I had a handful of friends who read the books or who read, reading the books in, either high school or college before the show came on, but I never really asked about it or knew much about it until like the second or third season of the show when it really started taking off.
I remember when the first season popped up and all these motherfuckers in 2010 are talking about this Game of Thrones. I'm just like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, how do I not know about this? And here we are 8 years, eventually 9 years later, we're finally going to get the culmination of this series. And I don't know, you are right. I mean, I think HBO probably knew what they had, but I think they're also gambling a bit. I don't think they knew it would turn into the juggernaut because, I mean, look what it's done to even someone like me. I mean, as soon as I watched the first season, ran out, I was like, I can't wait for this shit. I'm reading books, and I don't like to read. I mean, I think it did that to a lot of people. And now you got us sitting here going like, damn it, George, what the fuck, man? You got famous, and you literally dropped the ball. Like the guy, let's move on to some of our George R.R. Martin stuff to talk about. But the guy at this point, I'm telling you right now, he's not going to finish the last 2 books.
Yeah.
I think that's what we forget. He's got 2 fucking books to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think
2.
I've finally relented to the fact that we're not going to get those 2 books unless, as we were talking about before we started recording here, unless someone else takes over and finishes for him, like Tolkien's son, like we had mentioned earlier. But yeah, at this point, I'm not expecting another book anytime soon from the old Georgie boy.
I am, just not Winds of Winter.
Yeah, well, I mean, go run with it, Keith. I mean, Keith's exactly right. I mean, he's out on doing press tours and this, that, and the other thing for his Fire and Blood book, which is like, I mean, he literally is going Tolkien. Like, he's making his own encyclopedias of Westeros now, and that's essentially what Fire and Blood is. I mean, it's going to explain the beginnings of the Targaryen dynasty when we don't even know the fucking end of it.
Well, what's really cool, though, is the fact that it's like building off of what was essentially a fan book, And he was just like, oh, well, I am going to go and fill in the gaps.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he initially said that, it was just kind of a fun little project. And then all of a sudden, that fun little project turned into 350,000 words.
Yeah, man. I mean,
And yeah, I get it. He talked recently to The Guardian about how a lot of the trouble with Winds of Winter has come from like the enormous success of the show, and how because the show is so popular and because the books are so at this point so beloved that every time he sits down to work on Winds of Winter, he's like, oh fuck, I have to write something incredible, otherwise I'm gonna let everybody down. And at least for me, like, I kind of get that. I kind of get how that can, totally screw everything up. And so for him, Fire and Blood has been a way to live in and to write about Westeros, but without the pressure of having to wrap up all the plot lines of Dany and Tyrion and Jon and Jaime. And
it's a shame. It's just a shame. I mean, I can't think of another massive work of literary art like this where the original creator isn't going to be the person to actually finish the story.
Wheel of Time.
Okay, you would know. I mean, you're an English professor, so.
Yeah. God, I can't even remember. I'm gonna get fucking annihilated for this, but I can't even remember the author's name. But yeah, he wrote like 11 of them, and then there were like three or four more that needed to get finished.
Got you.
Yeah.
Was he a Martin type? Did the success get to him, or is this like a guy from back 1,000 years ago? I mean, what are we talking about?
We're talking 20th century. Like
okay.
this.
So did he get successful and just?
This was relatively recently. I honestly, I'm clearly by the fact that I don't even remember the author's name.
Right, can't be that good.
Well, no, I just never got around to it. It's one of those like the books are all 1,000 fucking pages long,
right?
And there's 11 of them. So I have a really hard time cracking something that intimidating.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you. I mean, I have a hard time reading like a comic book these days. Just ain't my bag. There's so many fucking distractions now. I mean, the phones, the tablets, the TV, the news. It's just nonstop. And I think it's a culmination of things for Mr. Martin here. I mean, he's human after all. Any human's gonna soak in the amount of fame he garnered 8 years ago. I mean, you gotta understand, this guy was probably famous on the little fantasy book circuits and D&D circuits up until then, but once this shit hit HBO and it exploded, I mean, his life changed. And I think anyone, after you've been grinding like that and have achieved success, but not that level of success and fame, you could probably get intoxicated by it. I mean, he said it a lot of times. It's just going to all these damn cons now and panels and this and that and the other thing. And I think what Keith had to say is probably even more so true, and the fact that this guy is now intimidated by his own creation, because he did let it get out in the wild and he did share ideas with other people and they ran with it, and now I think he feels like it's got ahead of him.
Yeah, now too with the prequel coming out, which we'll get to, of course, he's involved with that as well. I don't know to what extent, but that's also going to obviously take up some time for him. But going back to, I've just lost the title of the book. That's not Winds of Winter. What was it, Keith?
Fire and Blood.
Fire and Blood. That's it. But my secret hope with that is, as he writes that, it maybe triggers something subconsciously that kind of opens up. What was it, Einstein who worked like at the patent office or something like that, like some menial type job, and then something just clicked for him one day about some theory that he came up with? I forget.
Sounds good to me.
I forget if that was Einstein or some other.
Just history, fucking.
But,
we clearly can't learn from history, so why even pay attention anymore?
I know. But yeah, so I'm hoping that as he puts some effort into the Targaryen book, maybe it kind of loosens up his mind and his patterns, I guess, for Winds of Winter. But I'm just losing more and more hope with each passing day that he'll actually finish even that book.
Yeah, I think Keith nailed it. I've never thought about it that way, but knowing how artists get, and I don't want to even call myself an artist, but even with my little toy photography stuff, there's some times where I'll be looking at a shot, I'll be processing it, and I'll spend 2 hours and be like, this fucking sucks, I hate myself. And I'll like just delete it, and no one will ever get to see it. And that could very well be where he's stuck right now. It's a shame because you got to think all the shit this guy's already cooked up, and he basically spoon-fed the duo his cliff notes. I mean, he had a general outline. It's not like he just said, okay, you guys just do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, he clearly had to sign off and approve of it, and he did. It's just a bummer because as lame as it is, as cliche as it's going to sound, a lot of times, especially in fantasy, books are just going to annihilate moving pictures. I mean, The Lord of the Rings is a perfect example, and Jackson's trilogy is fucking amazing, but it still doesn't even touch on half the shit that's in the books. Not even close. So I don't know, I missed it. I missed learning and experiencing a lot of these moments we've seen in season 6 and 7. I missed not getting them from Martin himself, through his words, through the characters he's created. It's kind of a bummer, but as we've all kind of said at this point, take it to the bank. They ain't getting fucking done. What we're going to see in April and May, and maybe probably by the end of May, that's it. That's going to be the Song of Ice and Fire as we know it.
Yeah, and the other bummer too with the books, like you said, they're a lot more in depth, and
just think how much shit we're missing out on, dude.
Well, even the paths that certain characters take, like season 5, I think is where the show really diverged from the books.
Right, exactly.
Uh-huh. So just even though it might come to the same end, they're going to get there differently. And even though I'm going to know how it ends on the show, I want to know the background in the books.
I mean, dude, we still have potentially fake Aegon hanging out in the books with that other lord.
Yeah, and Lady Stoneheart and
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just like I said. I mean, he had so many threads going on that were very interesting that have never even been. You can't even say they've been glossed over. They've just been ignored on the show.
Yeah, but I think that you've also hit on another sort of problem with finishing the book is there are just so many fucking threads. Yeah, there's so many moving parts to this world and this story that like wrangling them all together, and especially like now, with previous books, he could just be like, okay, sure, they're going to go in a million different directions, and one day I'll come back to them. But now it's just, now one day has come, and he's got to come back to them, and he's got to bring them all back together to make sense. And Jesus, if that ain't fucking hard.
Yeah, so you're basically saying he's kind of taken his way out. Like he's just bound out of the writing process without saying it.
I mean, like, I have no doubt that he's still working.
It's got to wear on him. I mean, just think about, I don't know, like, Keith, if you still play games, even that, but I don't play nearly as much as I used to. I don't even know if that bothers me anymore. But, like, for example, the new God of War, I think I'm on, like, the last level, but I haven't finished it because I've had to do other game reviews, whatever. And there are times where that kind of eats at me in the back of my head. Like, yeah, you still got that to wrap up. You still got to do this. You got to get this done. I wonder if it's eating at him that he's probably not going to finish these 2 books.
Well, Matt, to be fair, you don't have millions of people pressuring you to finish that game either.
Yeah,
or sending you angry emails.
Yeah,
Matt, I'll send you angry Slack messages to finish God of War, so you can feel the pressure that Martin's feeling.
Finish it, you loser!
What's taking so long? Shit. You started this so long ago.
I hope you die, because there's probably some of those people out there.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so more news from Martin. I guess he was, as Nick hinted at, he is going to be involved in the actual official Game of Thrones prequel that, some people think it's going to be called The Long Night, this, that, or the other thing. Naomi Watts has been cast in it. Some other people are starting to get cast in it. But George has been going around talking about some other prequel series. basically on his blog and in an interview with The Guardian, where he said at least 2 of the prequels that are being churned around are based on material he's created for Fire and Blood. So here he goes. I mean, he's already getting mixed up in more shows based on his new books.
Yeah.
So, what do you
sure.
guys want? I mean, do you want Fire and Blood in TV series form, or I mean, we want to see how the potential, the Long Night, or the show that's going to be set 8,000 years prior to Game of Thrones proper? I mean, or the more the merrier.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think I'm more interested in the Long Night, or whatever the working title is, because it is so far back, and so much of the current Game of Thrones history and lore basically starts there. As we saw in that interview with George Martin, I think he talked about how that prequel is going to kind of show us the origins of the Nightwalkers, and I think that's also when Bran the Builder, could potentially build the wall. The Night's Watch forms. Dragons were alive and well, more so than they are now back then too. So I'm curious to see what that world is like, and to see how it influences the current Game of Thrones world that we're watching now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. In order for me to really, really buy in hard with a prequel series, I think it needs to be different enough from Game of Thrones to stand on its own. Because otherwise, I feel like it's just going to be kind of like what The Hobbit did for the Lord of the Rings films. Just be like, hey. Remember when this happened in Lord of the Rings? Well, it's kind of happening again in The Hobbit. I just don't want it to be 100 hours of hey, remember Jon Snow? Remember Ned Stark? Fuck that. Give me something totally new. And I think The Long Night is the perfect time to set a prequel.
Yeah, and
you would not be a good Star Wars fan, Keith, because most Star Wars fans only want the shit to be the same over and over.
Yeah, I know. It drives me nuts.
You can't change from the formula, dude. It's got to be the same. Skywalkers only. No, I mean I'm with you, dude. I mean, let's go. If we're gonna create new content, let's make it fresh. Let's make it new. But I also like when things line up. I don't like when we're in this Game of Thrones world, but everything's on its own island. I want things to still be interconnected. Mm-hmm. As Nick and I talked, I think in the last cast, we want to see some of the stuff that we heard in lore and legend in Game of Thrones. We want to see that play out, and I think they've pretty much said that. I mean, we're going to probably see the origin of the White Walkers and the crumble of the Golden Age, and probably the death of the children and the battle with the First Men, all that good stuff. But also, to Keith's point, we don't want them essentially recreating moments we've seen in Game of Thrones proper to tell these new stories.
Yeah, and I'm on that same boat with you guys. The one thing that is nice about this prequel is that there is no info on it other than what Martin has put in the books already, and all of that is passed down from generation to generation. And what we've seen in even the last few episodes of the last season is that just because something is passed down doesn't necessarily mean that's what actually happened. We look at the Tower of Joy, where Ned Stark faces who is Arthur Dane, I think it's the Knight, and this Bran's story is that Ned overcame Arthur Dane, when in fact that wasn't the case, as he saw in the flashback. So we're learning from there that just because something is passed down as truth doesn't necessarily make it so. So it'd be interesting to see what they do thousands and thousands of years before, when we're thinking, oh, so and so did this, or like, oh, you know what, actually they didn't, or it happened differently, and this is why they lied about it. So that's something that I kind of have a vested interest in too, in regards to the lore and going back that far.
Well, I mean, it's too true even when you compare it to real life. I mean, look at some of the shit that we used to believe in or think, or some of the stories that have been told about the past before we had written word or modern science to explain things. I mean, we had stories about people living in whales and shit. You know, I mean, did that really happen? Probably not. It was probably embellished to tell a tale to keep people from doing something. But the same thing's happening in Martin's head when he's creating these universes in Game of Thrones. I mean, people embellish, stories change. I mean, the game Telephone, it happens. People are people. We suck. I mean, we're just stupid animals in the end. We can't even keep our history straight. So I don't know. I'm kind of like Star Wars syndrome with most of these fantastical things I get into. I mean, bring it on. It's like these assholes that are all happy that they've gotten Star Wars movies canceled or canned or delayed. It's like, why? Like, what purpose does that serve you? Besides feeling like you've achieved something in life because you probably never have before. It's like any of these fictional tales, they're great. They're fiction. They're not real. They're an escape. Give me more. I don't care.
Do those
Game of Thrones?
Do those same people that Star Wars people that complain about the movies complain that there's like 1,000 Star Wars books? Or they don't care, or they don't care about books that much.
All those Disney aborted. They're no longer canon. So Disney, SJW. Disney's ruining Star Wars. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with those fans, man. I mean, bunch of asswipes. You hear me? I'm an asswipe Star Wars fan, but I'm just a fanboy.
I'm just glad we got this far into the podcast before the Star Wars reference was made.
Dude, it drives my entire life. Now my kid's into it without any of my pressure. Like, I had nothing to do with this, and the little motherfucker's like, I want to watch Darth Vader. Okay, we'll start with the original trilogy. She likes that. She wants more. Okay, Empire. Watch that one 3 times in a row. All right, she likes that one. On the Jedi. I don't know, man. Like I said, it's everywhere. The Force surrounds us, controls us. It makes us up. It's within us. Midichlorians, right? All right, so back to A Song of Ice and Fire Land, my friends. Basically, as we talking about in our last segment, Martin's way too busy doing new things, promoting things that aren't even in existence yet to ever finish the novels. Although he did drop a quote in this Mashable piece where he is committing, at least now, and he'll change it again because he lies all the time. But basically they asked him about The Winds of Winter. He said, The Winds of Winter is next. Then I'll decide what comes after that, whether it's go on to A Dream of Spring, the last one, or whether I should switch back into Fire and Blood 2, do another Dunk and Egg story or two, but I'll worry about that one thing at a time. That's too far ahead. Yeah, have at it. Have at it. So what he meant to say was Fire and Blood 2 is next, then I'll worry about other stuff, maybe.
Well, he's got to finish a couple more drafts on. Didn't he co-wrote the pilot to Long Night or whatever, Untitled.
Mm-hmm. Right. And he probably needs a cameo in it, so he's going to have to take some time to act. Mm-hmm. Hell, he'll probably just make himself a main character.
I'm surprised we haven't. I wonder if he shows up in the final season, just in the background, walking around somewhere.
Has he not made a cameo yet? I figured at this point they would at least throw his fat ass somewhere in the background.
Nothing that I've seen. I feel like that was something that would have been sprayed all across Twitter and the internets when it happened. Right. But yeah,
I guess you're right. I don't know. Some guys aren't like that. Some guys love cameos.
Maybe we'll just get more Ed Sheeran.
I was gonna say at least we've had Ed Sheeran and Mastodon.
Yeah.
That went over well last year. Poor Ed got the shit beat out of him for showing up on the show. It's like, geez, man. It's not like the guy. That's the other thing. It's like, do you think he asked to be on the show, or do you think the guys are like, hey, man, you want a cameo? We got a song.
My understanding was Maisie Williams is just a huge Ed Sheeran fan.
Mm-hmm. No shit. So she had the pull, huh?
I'm wondering if she had something to do with that. She kept bugging the showrunners.
Because Ed, fantastic performer. Don't get me wrong. Seeing
Yeah.
him live, I mean, the guy, I really had no clue that he does everything. Like, just sits there at the fucking pedals and lays down his beat, and there you go. Andy wore a Buckeye shirt. He's smart. But I don't know. I don't feel like he has that type of star power where he can command a cameo in a Game of Thrones at this point, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's huge enough to. And plus, they had him singing. He was one of the singing soldiers, so.
Right. Well, then where the fuck's Tay Tay? She's bigger than him, right? Isn't that what the kids tell me?
Well, they also had the Mets pitcher Noah Syndergaard was in it briefly before that battle along the river where Jamie and Braun fell into the river and somehow came out the other side.
Yes, the loot train fight.
Yes, the greatest named episode in all of television.
Fucking loot trains, man. I wish I had a loot train. But for some reason, whenever I hear loot train, I just go back to Coltrane from Gears of War, and I want to just start going, woo, woo, Coltrane, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what cameos. If just off the top of your head, name who are one or two celebrities you think we'll see in the final, or do you think they not go that route? They keep it.
I hope they fucking don't. I mean, to me, dude, these 6 have to be so dialed just into the narrative. I don't want any bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't even care if we get fucking special effects. I don't even care if there's big wars. I want story. I want dialogue. I want, as Keith said, a lot of these threads that they've been stewing all these 8 seasons long. Let's start wrapping these fuckers up.
I want hologram Tupac.
Right,
let's get hologram Tupac. He can be one of the pirates with Salvador San or whoever. Just
headless Ned comes back. He's like holding his head like Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
That's a
I mean,
good question. Who are we going to see as a zombie?
Hodor.
Yeah.
That's the big one that I'm not going to be happy about, but it's going to happen.
No, that's going to be sad. Especially if he's carrying
Summer?
a fucking door.
Summer.
Oh yeah, some of the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Summer for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of the direwolves.
Yeah. Go into that, Nick.
They did confirm. I forget who it was within the show, but they did confirm that Ghost, Jon Snow's long lost direwolf that we haven't seen in I don't know how long, is going to get a large amount of screen time in the final season. So we'll at least get him. There's no mention of Nymeria. Obviously, we saw her briefly last season.
Are we thinking that was it right there? That story's over?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they obviously could bring her back in, but the way they had her and Arya kind of meet, they had that stare down, and then Arya kind of, so to speak, let her go, like released her, I guess, and because I think she very easily could have been like, "Hey, Nymeria, it's me. Like, come with me," and she would have. But she knows that wasn't the path, I guess, that Nymeria was to be on. So I don't know if I'd be surprised if we see Nymeria again.
Yeah, it felt right to close it off that way. But Nick, you were thinking of Joe Bauer, the visual effects supervisor.
Yes. Yeah,
Ghost has a fair amount of screen time, so.
Yeah.
Get to see her.
Guys, can you remind me where the fuck did we leave him last? Was it John's resurrection, or is it that far back, or did we see him in season 7 at all?
I don't think we saw him at all in 7, but in 6, I'm reasonably sure he was there for the Battle of the Bastards, but I could be totally wrong.
I think Ghost is is he at the Wall or is he in Winterfell?
Right at this point, I don't know. It's been so long I can't remember.
He's not in season 7 at all. So season 6
was the last time I vividly remember the dog is, what season is this now? 5 or 6 when Jon awakes.
6.
Mm-hmm.
And Ghost is just sitting there kind of laying around his dead body the whole time, and then I don't remember seeing him again after that, really.
Yeah, so from the info that I could find here real quick, it looks like Ghost is in Winterfell. And apparently in season 7 there was supposedly a scene with Jon and Ghost, but it got cut. So basically
Bastards.
Ghost is just roaming around Winterfell.
Eating varmints and shit, probably.
Yeah.
Living the good dire
While
wolf life.
Jon's out there hanging out with dragons and the future
Yeah.
future queen potentially.
Banging his aunt.
Yeah.
That's the shit I want to get into. Like, what the hell are these guys gonna do? It's been. I need to rewatch 7. Okay, here's a fun little topic for you. Are you guys gonna do a full series rewatch going into 8?
Absolutely.
I'm
Okay.
trying really hard to convince my fiance to do it with me, but
Right?
we might get through season 7. I'll probably watch all of it again, but that's
I'm thinking it's almost mandatory. I mean,
it's been 2 fucking years.
yeah, and I always at least rewatch the previous season before the new season. I mean, I do that with Westworld too. I feel like shows like that you have to go over and do it again and just remember where everybody's at, where all the pieces are at on the board. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do it too. But I mean, if we chart this out, we have to start.
So I got this covered for you here. I was gonna bring
Yeah, I
this up.
knew he would do it. He probably has odds on it too, this motherfucker. I bet he figured out how to gamble on it somehow.
Well, I forget where it was. Somewhere in Vegas is taking bets on who you
See?
think will
I
sit
knew
on the
it.
Iron Throne. I don't have that in front of me, but I could probably pull that up at some point. So here's a couple things you could do. One, if you want to rewatch Game of Thrones, an episode per day, and catch up by the first Sunday in April, if it gets released on the first Sunday of April, you'll want to start watching on January 30th.
Nice.
If you want to watch an episode every other day, start on November 24th. So you got some time to plan which one you want to go with there.
Next
And
Saturday, people.
That's
If you're
yeah, and
doing
that's
every
that's
other day.
if the new season starts on the first Sunday.
I'm
in April,
thinking
but-
it's probably going to be end April, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling.
So if it's the last Sunday, then you can add, I think, like 3 weeks to that.
Yeah,
to those
I
numbers
figured
there.
someone had taken time
Yeah.
to do a calculator. That's
Yep.
why I love the internet still. I mean, for
Reddit
shit like
Reddit
that.
is such a great site.
Well, what the hell's that? It's dire wolves. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I got to do it. Got to do it. It's going to be a lot of work. I mean, it's probably going to be like background watching just because of how much content there is to take in, but it's got to be done.
Well, and especially if you've seen the first 2 or 3 seasons like 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I'm at least through season 6. I've seen them all twice. 7 I just picked up on Vudu because it was cheap as shit. It was like $10.
Nice.
So I still need to do that one, but I think at this point I'm just gonna start at S1 and roll with it.
All right, so I found the gambling odds here for you.
Good. What we got? Who's
Do
got
you know,
the best odds?
see how quickly it took me to find them? Who do you guys think the odds-on favorite to sit
Yeah,
on the
you
Iron
just
Throne
texted
is?
your bookie. I mean, odds-on's probably Jon, right?
No, Bran.
Cersei. Really?
Bran is the odds favorite right now to sit on the Iron Throne. Jon
What
is
are they giving
Jon
him?
is second and Dany's third.
What are Bran's odds?
Bran is plus 130, so bet $100 to win 130. Jon is plus 500, so bet 100 to win 500. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I
so
mean-
right now Bran's the favorite. Cersei is plus 2,500 keys. So if you want to bet 100
Damn.
on Cersei, you can win $2,500 there. If you really want to get crazy.
Do you guys have any strong feeling for anyone in particular? Do you feel like George in the show has done so well at just always keeping us on our toes that it's going to be nearly impossible to predict the ending?
So my thinking is the whole Game of Thrones story is Jon's story. He's if there was a main character, it's him, right?
Yeah,
Would you guys
I would,
agree
yeah,
with that?
I would.
So I would find it as many as our favorite characters have died, I would find it hard to believe that Jon isn't there at the end. Whether it's him or Dany on the throne, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's going to be him, especially with what we learned last season with his heritage, all that coming to fruition there. And
Well, we also,
obviously his
just from
partnership
the
with Dany.
cast, they all said that when they read the script, I mean, Jon in particular, or Kit, could hardly get through it sometimes, just crying and shit. So, I don't know, there's tears of joy. I don't know. They fucked with us so many times, even in better in the book than in the show, because, I mean, we knew a lot of it was coming, but it just, I mean, you make a great case for Jon, but in the world of Game of Thrones, a great case for something usually means it's not going to happen.
Right.
But maybe this is the double fuck you, where they've got us so conditioned that we're thinking they're not going to do it, but they're going to do it, and that's going to be the aha.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm putting money on it, which I may or may not, I'd probably put it on Jon.
All right. Well, throw down that Hyundai and get yourself a 5-sack,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I just love. I mean, you can gamble on anything these days.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I just wish the states would get caught up. I mean, come on. The Fed said, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, slowly but surely, but yeah, it's taken a while.
I mean, you're close enough. You could just jump over to Jersey, right?
Yeah, well, actually, where I am, there's a place in Delaware where you've been able to bet on football game like NFL games, but now with the new law, you can expand. They expanded to all sports now, so that's about an hour from where I live. So
Bingo.
I take a trip down there every once in a while.
Just do it. Legalize gambling, weed, everything. I mean, this would be a happy place.
Yeah.
There'd be money flowing out of the coffers. Deficits? Ha! Who heard of deficits? All right. So I guess the only other thing, we've kind of thrown it out there a few times, but in between now and the last time we talked, it was confirmed that Naomi Watts is going to be the lead, one of the leads in the Game of Thrones prequel that is greenlit. It is happening. It's the one that's going to be set 8,000 years prior to what we're watching now. And we got a very brief description of the type of character she's going to be playing. And basically it states that she'll play a charismatic socialite hiding a dark secret. And again, we're back during the golden age of heroes, but it's going to be during its darkest hour. So what do you think this means? I mean, a charismatic socialite. I didn't think... Did we have kingdoms and shit back then on Westeros? I thought that was all like in Valyria and all that stuff. Or am I crazy?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not...
Because when they say charismatic socialite, that automatically disqualifies that we're dealing with like tribal people at this point. Like it seems like there is some form of society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think there is to some extent. I don't know. I'm sure they say somewhere, who's ruling the land, so to speak. Because obviously there's some semblance of civilization. Because supposedly that's when the wall was built, after, the creation of Nightwalkers, and then they have their spat with the wildlings, and they built, supposedly Bran the Builder builds the wall, creates the Night Watch in there. So, there's some semblance of civilization, I think, there, but I don't recall in my Game of Thrones reading or watching ever hearing about anybody in particular, as far as who this character might be or what she does. Because when they say a socialite with a dark secret, like that could literally be anybody.
That's the entire cast.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean that's basically in everyone's bio. They have dark secrets. I mean, if you're in Game of Thrones, if you're a character in Game of Thrones, you have a dark secret. Even Ned Stark did, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
He was supposed to be the holier than thou, do everything right type of guy. Yeah, this show interests me. I'm a lore junkie, and don't get me wrong, me making fun of George for creating more lore. I mean, actually, I think it's fucking fantastic. I just want him to finish the shit that he's creating the lore for. I mean, think about it. He hasn't even finished the damn story that he's going back and fleshing out its lore on. I love all that shit. I mean, when I first... And this is embarrassing because I don't know. I read The Hobbit when I was little, but never even got into Lord of the Rings. But when I saw that first movie, I was like, "Holy shit! I need to read this stuff." And I read it, and I was hooked. Like just reading Tolkien and just seeing the shit that this guy did and the appendices. I mean, I went and got everything he ever made, notes, whatever, his almanacs. I mean, you name it. I sucked it all up. I learned as much as I could. And I would do the same thing like this. Like as I'm sitting here spitballing with these two, I'm like, damn, I really want to know. Like, what the fuck were the first men doing? If they're not the first civilization, why were they over there? Where'd they come from? The Andals, the fucking Valeria, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I want to learn about all that shit, but I want to learn what happens in the original fucking story first. Please. Is that too much to ask?
Apparently.
It is, really. It is at this point. It is too much. I rest my case then.
I'm curious to see what George's outlines look like. Like, you know he's got stuff written down that he wants to happen, whether it's in order, whether it's fleshed out, obviously is another story. But I want to see what his notes, just like an Instagram picture of his notes or his outlines of where he's, how many pages is it? Is it actual pages? Is it on that 1985 processor that he uses? I just want to see what his process itself is like when it comes to trying to put this story together.
I would imagine it's a shit show.
Yeah.
Like sticky notes on his face, monitor doors, asshole. I mean, you name it.
So do you think when he was writing the first 5 Game of Thrones books, he had a post-it note that just said, Jon Snow, father, with a question mark?
Yeah, exactly. And then he came back to
He's like, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, just like he said. Like, he starts all this shit, and he's like, I'll come back to it. And now that he's having to come back to it, he's going, oh, fuck. How do I get out of this? I know, I just won't finish it. I'll let the show do it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Do we have a time frame on this prequel? I mean, is this... late 2019 or are we going to 2020 at this point?
My understanding when they announced it was that it was going to be obviously after the final season of Game of Thrones, but I believe it meant following a year. So basically the same time off as a normal season. Right. So I would think early 2020 is probably when they'll bring that out.
Yeah.
Like, and do we even know, has this been fully ordered as a season, or they just ordered the pilot at this point?
I think they just ordered the pilot.
Yeah, I think it's just the pilot at this point. They're still working on the other 3 or 4 prequels. But yeah, this is the only one that has gotten a pilot to this point. So I can't imagine they don't pick it up. But you never know, I guess.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, but not as much as I'm looking forward to this April. So just to recap, my friends, what did we learn today on Thrones Time? Well, a whole lot of nothing, except that I'm crazy and I really like Star Wars, and George Martin pisses me off. But in reality, we learned Game of Thrones Season 8 coming at you April 2019. Don't know the exact time of the month. I'm leaning towards mid to end April, so they can push it maybe right up to June. We know that Naomi Watts is going to be the lead of the prequel that's greenlit. We also know that George is helping HBO develop 2 additional prequels that may be based on his, what the hell is it now? Fire and Stone? Is that it? Keith? What the hell?
Fire and Blood.
Yeah, Fire and Blood.
Yeah, the fucking Targaryen words, man.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna purposely call it the wrong thing every time. I'm gonna change it up.
Yeah,
fire and ice, fire and
sparks and twigs.
Fire and flames, like Dragon Force.
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of not the culmination of Song of Ice and Fire from George. Okay, great, whatever. You lore hounds, have at it. We're getting Season 8 in April. We're getting the prequel hopefully sometime in 2020, probably springish. So life's good for Game of Thrones fans. Unless you want to read a book, then your life is never going to be complete, and you just need to get used to that right now. It's not going to happen. Take it to the bank. Thrones time has spoken. All right, boys, anything I missed or you want to close out with?
Nothing here. Just excited for some more news that'll come. Looking forward to whenever.
Yeah,
they
that's
release
the other
that first
thing.
trailer.
I'm anticipating we'll be firing these mics up more often than not in the next 5 months, because obviously we're eventually going to get a trailer or a bunch of trailers or maybe some featurettes or some posters. We're going to start getting some information to riff on, speculate on. So don't stop us now. We'll be back. I know we took a break, but so did the fucking show. So give us a break. But we're here. We're ready to talk about it. We're ready to speculate. Hell, at this point, just like everything else, we're ready to just throw out wild rumors that we make up, and we're going to run with them because everyone else does. All right? Until next time, people. Winter is here.